So this is the last moment of the tour, and you can fire a gun. I chose the AK-47. So yeah, these are very effective. I can't hear a thing. I can't hear my voice. And he's got the 10 bullets here. Wow. You really, you feel it in your ears. You feel it everywhere. See, I ran out and I didn't know. Oh, one more. The misfire. Yeah, one more. This is the one that could save my life. And I can imagine if you're in a battle with 100 of those being fired all around you all the time with artillery fire, I think unless you live through it, you really can't imagine what it would be like, I think. Here's the price list. AK-47, K63, and M60. Oh, an M16, so you can fire the classic American gun or the classic Vietnamese.
What's the plan now? Go back to Are we going to Ho Chi Minh now?
Go to shooting gun. But if you don't want to shooting, you can get in the car to waiting. Yeah.
Okay.
Can we go get some food?
You can go inside to see.
Yeah.
But you have to go the upstairs, and it's just meant for shooter. If you want to see, go upstairs to see. Yeah.
So we're taking the bus to the shooting range.
Yeah.
Not this one.
No in here. No. Here.
Okay. We all get in the bus.
Yeah.
All right.
We don't have to like just come here?
No shooting here. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not here. It's another place. I was confused again.
You're doing great.
No,
Oh my God! Thank you so much. Very happy to hear it.
And supplied by the tour, a wet wipe, which to be honest is kind of welcome about now. Ay. Feels nice.
Oh, sir?
No, I just said it feels nice.
You want to take it?
Oh, you can keep it for now.
Okay.
When we finished at the gun range.
Okay. Because shooting range, it belongs to the army. I don't talk anything. Yeah.
Right, okay. So we're leaving the official site. One last look at the C-130 and the Huey. Some anti-aircraft guns. So yeah, in theory, there would be tunnels all underneath this whole area.
There's no everything everywhere here.
And it looks like termite mounds are natural in this environment. So using the termite mounds to disguise ventilation is very clever. So this shooting range is actually run by the military. So we're entering into a... Oh no, I thought we were entering the military compound, but I think we're exiting from the Cu Chi compound. Okay. Yeah, there's the sign. If you come up with your own transportation, I guess that's the sign you're looking for. So this is the last moment of the tour, and you can fire a gun. I chose the AK-47. I thought about the M16, but I kind of had to go with the local gun, right? And it's 10 bullets for 600,000.
Okay.
So yeah, these are very effective. I can't hear a thing. I can't hear my voice. And he's got the 10 bullets here.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I was wondering whether we'd be able to pick up the gun, but it's actually strapped into place, which makes sense. Okay. Against my shoulder, I guess.
Which way?
Ah. Misfire. Right out of the gate, I got a misfire. Wow. You really, you feel it in your ears, you feel it everywhere. But because, I don't know, I don't feel it in my shoulder that much. My gosh. And I can see how a soldier would lose track of how many bullets they shot. Because I have no idea. How many did I shoot? No clue. See, I ran out and I didn't know. Oh, one more. The misfire. Yeah, one more. This is the one that could save my life. And I could really feel the barrel heating up at the end. Yeah. That was very cool. Very, very unusual feeling to do that.
Oh, sorry. Can you have more sugar?
I did 5. Maybe it doesn't come back, right? Like the...
No, it doesn't.
This way.
Okay. Because I'm short. ඇඟට එන්නේ මූණේ වදින්නේ නැහැ නේ?
That's all.
That's a really odd thing to do on my birthday. Today's my birthday and it's a really odd thing to do.
What's that? This is your birthday?
Yeah, it's a very odd thing to do on my birthday.
Yeah, there's the shooting range, just leaving now. That last guy, he did both, AK-47 and the M16. And the percussion, the thudding sound of that was very surprising to me. Yeah. It's one of those things I don't think you can imagine what it's like until you do it yourself. And I can imagine if you're in a battle with 100 of those being fired all around you all the time with artillery fire, I think unless you live through it, you really can't imagine what it would be like, I think. Just that deep in my chest when it was going off, that was quite something. Yeah. But it was kind of funny that when we started at the very beginning and Leo was showing us the various weapons and he was talking about the American M16, and he said it was famous for misfiring, and a lot of Americans were killed because their guns malfunctioned. But then I was using the AK-47 in there, and I think the very first 2 bullets were a misfire. And then then at the very end I ran out of bullets and I had 1 left that the guy gave me because of the misfire. So yeah, it was the AK-47 that misfired for me. But yeah, I was wondering how they're going to do it, because you can't just let any bozo grab a gun and start firing. So the way they got around that here, I think, is A, we're in Vietnam. Rules will be a little bit looser here. And B, the gun was wired and locked into place. So you couldn't actually pick up the gun and point it in any direction except down the firing range. So yeah. There you go. So this is the name of the place, the National Defense Sport Shooting Range. Huh. All right. And that's sort of, the end of our Cu Chi Tunnel tour. Now the bus is just taking us back to Ho Chi Minh City, like an hour away, I think.
Okay.
So you could see us from somewhere? You could.
Yeah, we were seeing you.
Oh, okay.
Upstairs.
Oh, okay.
Sound was like really loud.
Oh.
But the reality is very loud.
You need those ear protectors.
Yeah.
They were very strong. I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hear my voice. I couldn't hear the gun. There I am talking.
When you wear the headphone, right?
Yeah, you have to, I think. That's great. Thank you. Just got dropped off right in front of my hotel. Tunnel to door service, I guess you'd call it. I already said goodbye to Leo and everybody else in our tour group. They're pretty much dropping everybody off right in front of their hotel, so amazing service. I'm gonna walk. My hotel is right here behind me, but I'm gonna walk this way a little bit just to grab a banh mi and devour it back in my room. And while I'm getting the banh mi, I suppose I can sum it all up now that we're back in town. Took a while to get back in. It's from here 55 kilometers there, and then 55 back, so 110 kilometer round trip. And it's very slow moving traffic. We were never stuck in gridlock traffic jams or anything like that, but it was just slow. You never really, we were at times on something that kind of resembled a highway, but we never ever even approached highway speeds. You never got close. You were just sort of 20, 25, 30 kilometers, maybe 40 kilometers an hour. That would be high speed for that. Just the way the roads are. A lot of trucks parked at the side of the road, loading and unloading, and our bus driver has to stop, wait for a break in traffic to pull out around it over and over again. And then, of course, once we got into the city limits itself, slow down even more. So it's not a quick journey. The Cu Chi Tunnel experience on the whole, definitely worth doing. And even the group tour was a really good idea because I'm on my own. And I think if I went there by myself, I would have a completely different experience, good and bad. On the good side, if I were on my own, I would go much slower. Because with the group, we did move along pretty fast for my taste. If I were there on my own, I'd probably spend 2 to 3 times longer at the site, examining everything, taking pictures of everything, reading everything. But there were many instances in today's tour where I hung back to take a closer look at something, take a picture, and the group is gone. they're gone in the jungle, and then I can hear Leo starting the next lecture, the next story. It's like, come. So I got to go. So I moved at a much faster pace than I'm comfortable with, but then you get the benefit of being with other people. So when I went down into the tunnels, and I hung back so that I was sort of the last one in the tunnel, the last one to emerge. And then when I emerged, there'd be my whole group would be standing there waiting for me to come out of the tunnel. And everybody go, yay, you've arrived. And then when I was shooting the AK-47, I was able to hand off the camera to another member of our group tour and say, like, would you mind holding the camera? And he said, oh, fine. And you get to chat with people from all around the world, many different countries. So doing the whole group tour thing is, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. Physically, as you saw, there are some things to consider. I mean, you could go to the Cu Chi tunnels and be absolutely fine. But if you want to go into all the tunnels and walk through them all, you do have to think about your physical conditioning a little bit. You heard me huffing and puffing, and I can feel, even now, I can feel my legs burning a little bit, the thigh burn. And I was also because I was holding the GoPro when I was down in the tunnel, but I was reduced to crawling on hands and knees. That was the only way I could make progress. So I got pretty dirty, pretty sweaty, really hot down there inside those tunnels. But a very good experience. So I made sure to do everything. So every time there was a tunnel that we could do, and he asked the group, like, who wants to do it? And everybody was like hemming and hawing. And a lot of people broke down at the one that had the really tiny hole, the little small square you had to fit through. Most people were willing to get into the hole, like up to their neck and even up to their forehead, and they're like, no, I can't go further, and they got to pop back up. But when I found it really hard to get through that trap door. But once I stuck my head underneath, I could see, oh, it's just like all the other tunnels. Like, that entrance was so claustrophobic, you really felt like you were going to get stuck down there. So that's why most people backed out. They couldn't get past that point. But if you went down just a little bit lower, it's like, then you saw the tunnel and the opening. So, okay, once you get through this hard part, then it's just like the other tunnels. So I went all the way in and came up the other side. And coming up the other side wasn't easy either. My shoulders and my hips wouldn't fit through the hole normally. So every time Leo said, okay, here's the next tunnel, who wants to go? I made sure to say, me, I'll go. And that was another good part about being with a group, because I could hand off my knapsack to somebody. Leo took the knapsack most of the time, the guide. So I asked him, would you mind? Because there's no way of getting through that tunnel with this camera bag on my back, no way. And then even my reading glasses, they would have gotten destroyed down there. So I handed them off to a fellow Canadian who was willing to hold on to them until whenever I emerged from the other end of the tunnel. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was quite the experience to shoot the gun, the AK-47. That probably came across in the video from when I was doing it. Just the percussion of the gun was much greater than I thought it would be, and much louder than I thought it would be. But there was no recoil. That was a surprise. I've shot a couple of guns in my life, and I have a strong memory of shooting a shotgun. And I accidentally held the butt of the gun away from my shoulder. It wasn't tucked in. So when I pulled the trigger, the butt of the shotgun just hit me like a battering ram and knocked me right off my feet. So I was expecting this AK-47 to have a real kick to it. So I snugged it up against my shoulder as tight as I could, but I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel any recoil at all. I just felt this thunderous boom, the percussion, like I said, but there wasn't really any recoil to speak of. And a couple of other funny things is I was just chatting there. I shot the gun alongside this man who was kind enough to hold my camera for me. He also paid to fire a gun, and he was saying this. I said to him, I totally forgot I was supposed to aim at the target. And he said the same thing, because you're there and you're just concentrating so much on pulling the trigger, on the whole atmosphere, everything going on, that you forget you're supposed to hit the darn target, right? So I eventually remembered, and I tried to line up the sights. I have no idea if I came anywhere near the target. I remember seeing a puff of dirt on the left and right of the target. I guess I was missing, but I was kind of close. But it was only when I saw that puff of dirt, when my bullet hit the backstop, then I remembered, oh yeah, you're supposed to be aiming for the target. So I completely forgot about that. Plus, as I said while I was shooting the gun, I lost count of the bullets. I knew I paid for 10 bullets. Oddly enough, I think if you do fire a gun, it costs 600,000 dong. And I think that's more expensive than the entire trip, which is I think is somewhere in the range of 500,000 for the half-day tour. So firing 10 bullets is actually costs more than the whole trip put together. But since I was there and I had the opportunity, I really couldn't resist, right? You kind of had to do it while you were there. When else are you going to have the chance to fire off an AK-47. But you pay for 10 bullets, and all 10 bullets have to be fired from the same gun. You can't divide them up and get 5 AK-47, 5 M16 rounds. It's all got to be 10 in the same gun, and I chose the AK, of course. And so you know you've got 10, and again, if you're a soldier in the field, it's pretty important to remember how many bullets you've got left. So I was thinking, I got to count. I paid for 10, let's count them down, and I completely lost track. So I have no idea. I was just pulling the trigger until the gun ran empty, and at the very end I thought I had one more bullet, and it just like, oh, there was nothing left. And as I said during the video, had that been real life, yeah, I'd be sitting there shooting at the enemy and I've got no bullets left and I would have been killed. Yeah, I still have my original questions that I mentioned, and I didn't really ask Leo my questions because I don't think he would have known the answer. One question being, why there? Why Cu Chi? Why is it considered to be such an important part of the tunnel complex? What was there that made it so important? Why there as opposed to there or somewhere else, right? And I also wondered whether the tunnels were very, like overall, did they have a major effect on the military strategy of either side? Like I can see those tunnels being very useful in guerrilla war, just all over the country, like every little guerrilla unit, 5 soldiers, 20 soldiers, whatever, every village, I can see them digging tunnels, small little tunnels, and then it would be a very effective place from which to ambush soldiers and places you could attack, then you could retreat, dive into the tunnels and hide and be safe. I can see it being a very effective in a small skirmish is what I'm saying, but I don't see those tunnels as being a major strategic element of a big campaign because they're just too small. You can't get anything through those tunnels. You know, human beings could barely fit through those tunnels. I could barely fit. So it's not like you're going to be dragging heavy artillery. There were no rooms down there for storing ammunition, for storing weapons. And I'm thinking of this in particular because I saw some tunnel complexes that the Japanese dug in Sumatra recently during World War II. Yeah, in the town of Padang on the coast. And man, those tunnels were huge. There was a massive underground complex. You could drive vehicles through those tunnels, and they had armaments rooms, like entire very large rooms stretching 100 meters only for storing ammunition and weapons. And they had like 10 of those in a row. And then they had big rooms that they dug underground for soldiers to sleep in. They had barracks underground. So it really was like a city and a military complex underground with high ceilings. Like I said, you could drive large vehicles through those tunnels. So they dwarf what I saw today at Cu Chi. No, thank you. And so yeah, it just raises the question of exactly what was the effect of these tunnels in terms of the overall military strategy. So I have that question in my mind. And I was thinking of, I was doing a lot of reading recently and watching documentaries about the battle for Iwo Jima. And there, of course, the Japanese were deeply dug into the mountains of Iwo Jima, they basically dug out entire mountains, and they fought from those tunnels, and the Americans had nearly an impossible time fighting the Japanese because the Japanese had this tunnel complex that they were fighting out of. But my impression is that the Iwo Jima tunnels were also huge by comparison, and the Japanese had major firepower in there. They had artillery and mortar. They had, modern weaponry inside the tunnels, and they could roll it out to the street, roll it out to the cliff fire their weapons, and then they could pull their weapons back in again, and now they would be hidden, and the Americans couldn't blow them up or even see them. But again, these Cu Chi tunnels were on an entirely different scale. They're more like an ant colony in a way, where ants could get through the tunnels, but that's all. You're not going to get anything else through there. Nobody's driving a Jeep down these tunnels. You're not storing artillery. You're not putting 1,000 mortar shells down there. There just isn't enough room. So it got me thinking about that from a military point of view. And the traps as well. I talked about that already. I wondered whether the traps were effective in reality. Did American soldiers ever step into these things? I know there were a lot of landmines, and those are very effective, but all the traps that they showed us look very exciting from a jungle point of view. We see it in movies all the time, but again, I don't know how effective they really were during the conflict. It'd be interesting to know. And along the same lines, I think that if you really wanted to know about the tunnels, their history, everything about them, you'd be well served to do your own research beforehand. A tour like that with a group of people with varying levels of interest, you're not going to have the opportunity to go really in depth into the history, the engineering, construction, effectiveness in military campaigns. So, for example, I read that the tunnels were instrumental during the Tet Offensive in 1968, and I'd love to know a lot more about that. But a guided tour like this is not the place, really, to ask your guide, oh, how effective, like what role did these tunnels play in the Tet Offensive? If those are your kinds of questions, well, I think you have to find those things out on your own. Maybe you'll get a tour guide who happens to be a history buff and speaks English well enough to deal with questions like that, but I think that would be very rare. So I think you just have to go along with the tone of the tour you're on. And the tone of the tour I was on was more of a casual, enjoy the day, hang out with friends and your traveling companions. It wasn't like a study of the Cu Chi tunnels and their role in the Indochina and American wars, things like that. So I was very glad that I did a whole bunch of reading on my own, and I'll probably do quite a bit more now that I've seen the place again. I don't know if I finished the one story I was telling, though. I was talking about physical fitness and just saying that you can go there at any level of physical fitness as long as you stay above ground, is what I'm saying. But if you do want to go into all the tunnels, you better know what your limits are, because I could see people getting stuck down there just because their legs can't hold them up anymore, and then they can't actually move forward through the tunnels. But I had one very funny moment in there, because I was going through the tunnel and I made sure to be the last person in my group, because I knew I wanted to shoot video and I knew I wanted to go slowly and I didn't want to hold anybody up. So I made sure to be the last person. And then it was lucky I was the last person, because I was barely able to make any progress moving forward, holding the GoPro in one hand, crouched down, my thighs on fire. It was really hard to move forward, and I ended up crawling on my hands and knees. It was the only way I could make any progress. And then I heard voices right behind me. And then I started to hurry up because I thought I was blocking the tunnels. But then when I got to a point where there was a little corner, and I thought, okay, I can duck here I can step to the side, make room for all the people behind me to get by the slowpoke, i.e. me. But then when I stepped aside and turned around, there was nobody there. But I could hear their voices just as clear as if they were like standing or kneeling right beside me. And that was kind of funny, just how good the acoustics were down there. So, but yeah, I think that was the highlight of the day for me, just going into the tunnels, having the group cheer when I emerged from the other side. This whole question of who dares go into the tunnel, and we're all making judgments. And in the most difficult tunnel, there were 2 places where you could bail. So I guess it's not that terribly serious. This is the longest tunnel, maybe 60, 70, 80 meters long, I'm not sure. But you can do the first 20 meters, and if you're realizing, no, this is too much for me, you can duck out to the left and pop back up to the surface. Or you can do another 20 meters, and then there's another emergency exit there. So you don't, even though you start at the beginning, you don't have to go all the way to the end. There are points along the way where you can abandon the attempt and go back to the surface. And I was never tempted to do that because I figured, well, yeah, I'm here for the whole experience. So I got the whole experience from beginning to end. So there you have it. Half-day trip to Coochie Tunnels. They call it half day, but to be honest, I mean, it started at 7:30 this morning, and we didn't get back here until 3 o'clock because it was an hour, 45-minute ride. The drive took nearly 2 hours to come back. Oh, we had one other small adventure I should mention. One member of our group, a woman in our group, lost her phone. We were driving away. We were driving away from the gun range on our way back to Ho Chi Minh City, and then she suddenly was feeling her pockets and looking in her bags and was like, ooh, I don't have my phone. Where could it be? And she spoke to Leo, our guide, and they instantly just turned the bus around, went all the way back, and they went to all the last 2 places where we were. One rest area at the end of the Coochie Tunnels, looked for her phone there, but they couldn't find it. And then they went to the firing range connected to the military, because that's the last place we were. By the way, that firing range, I didn't realize that they had an observation level. So I was down there shooting the gun. I thought everybody was still just sitting on the bus waiting, but they had all come in, and then they went up onto like an observation platform on the 2nd level, and they were looking down over top, and a whole bunch of them were taking video from up there on their smartphones. And then while we were on the bus, they showed me the video on the smartphones. And that was really cool. I had no idea that was going on, but everybody was up there watching while there were 4 of us in total paid the fee to fire a gun. And one guy at the very end, he had a 360 camera. He asked me if I would hold his camera. I was happy to do that for him. And he paid 2 times. So he paid for 10 bullets on the AK-47 and 10 bullets on the American M16. So he was fighting for both sides of the war. Very sneaky. Yeah, I only fought on one side. But luckily and happily, and everyone applauded when she came back on the bus, she found her phone. She left it behind in the observation deck of the gun range and just left it there, I guess in full view, and nobody took it. And I've been hearing a lot of stories from different people saying that's a very common experience here. People I know here, friends of mine, will go to a coffee shop, sit down at a table, lay out their laptop, their smartphones, all their valuables, and then they'll just get up, leave it there, and go to the bathroom, go to a convenience store, get a cold drink, and they'll be gone for like 10, 15 minutes, half an hour, and they don't worry about it at all. And then they just come back and everything is still there sitting on the table. So I'm getting this message from a lot of people that people here are very trustworthy and you don't have to worry about your possessions like that. So when she left her phone behind, and we were gone for a half an hour, maybe 40 minutes, and by the time we got back, the phone was sitting right there. Nobody took it, and she was able to get it back. So can you imagine the relief she felt? Yeah, I can imagine it. So, yeah, I think that's it. End of the Coochie Tunnel half-day tour. Enjoyed that a lot. A lot of interesting elements to it. I'd recommend it to anybody, history buff or not. It's just an entertaining day. On a group tour like that, I should say, there wasn't a lot of time for eating or drinking. We stopped for a cold drink. You had to buy yourself. That wasn't included in the price of the tour. And on this half-day tour, there's no lunch included or anything like that. There was a restaurant there, and if you were there on your own and could control your own time, yeah, you could sit down and have a meal and buy it yourself. But with the tour group, we had kind of a schedule we were sticking to. So I could smell food. I saw a restaurant there, but I didn't have anything to eat, mainly because there wasn't time. So that's it. Gonna duck inside, take a shower. Gotta rinse off my pants. Look at that. When you crawl through Viet Cong tunnels on your hands and knees, your pants are gonna get a little bit dirty, so be prepared for that. They did say in the message, like the info message about this tour, make sure you bring mosquito repellent because there's gonna be a lot of mosquitoes, but I didn't see any. I wore long pants just in case there were a lot of mosquitoes in the jungle, but we didn't see any mosquitoes at all. We saw a lot of those, a lot of the big, long, creepy crawlies, but we didn't see any mosquitoes, so. But I was still glad to wear the long pants just for crawling through the tunnel because I was on my hands and knees much of the time, and I needed the pants to protect my knees. Yeah. To be honest, I scraped myself up pretty good. I scraped up my toes and my feet. They're all kind of scraped. Everything's dirty. I need a shower, and I'm going to take these pants into the shower with me and give them a good rinsing. They need it. All right. I think those are all my stories for now. Shutting down after the Cu Chi Tunnel half-day tour. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.